Hi students, today we are going to learn what a reflexive verb is and how to conjugate them. So a couple examples of reflexive verbs are some of those words that are on your vocab list, like lavarse, cepillarse, ducharse, maquillarse. Notice how they all end in se, and that is how we can characterize or pick out a reflexive verb. So to start, please make sure that you're following along. There is a notes sheet on reflective verbs on page 12 of your purple packet. So, a reflexive verb is a verb that describes the action that is done to and for oneself. Meaning that the action is both done, that one person both does and receives the action. So, in English, these sort of verbs or these sort of pronouns will end in self or selves, like I wash myself, I shower myself, I wake myself up, things like that. This shows, again, that one person or that the subject of the sentence both does and receives the action. So let's take a look below at this verb lavarse. Okay? So lavarse means to wash oneself. Okay? And this is expressed as all reflexive verbs are expressed with a reflexive pronoun. So the reflexive pronoun is se. So in an infinitive reflexive verb, it will always end with se. When we conjugate that verb, we need to take off the se, add a different pronoun, and then conjugate the verb. So I'm going to start by going through the reflexive pronouns. So the reflexive pronoun when you're talking about yourself is me. The to-form reflexive pronoun is te. Él, ella, usted is se. Nosotros is nos. Vosotros, os. And ellos, ellas, ustedes is se. So when we conjugate a verb that is reflexive, such as lavarse, we first take off the se, and then we change it to whichever pronoun we need to use, depending on who is the subject of the sentence. So either me, te, se, nos, os, or se. Then you conjugate the verb as you regularly would, putting the pronoun before the conjugated verb. So, for example, if we conjugate the verb lavarse in the yo form, it will be the word me lavo. The to form would be te lavas. El, ella, usted form would be se lava. Nosotros form nos lavamos. Vosotros os laváis. And ellos, ellas, ustedes se lavan. So these words mean the me lavo is I wash myself. So you can see how this is being done to the person who is actually doing the action. The to form te lavas, you wash yourself. The el, ella, usted form se lava, he or she washes him or herself. Nos lavamos, we wash ourselves. Os laváis, you all wash yourselves in Spain. And se lavan, they wash themselves. Okay, so the me, te, se, nos, os, and se kind of play the form of the self or selves that you usually put at the end of those things, such as I wash myself. So, if you look below, if the reflexive verb requires another body part, such as I wash my hands, you use the definite article and then the body part after the reflexive verb. So for example, I wash my hands, me lavo las manos. Okay, I wash my hands. I know it says my hands, so you might think that you have to put mis manos, but since you already said me lavo, I wash myself, I know that you're washing your own hands and not the hands of somebody else. And we don't want to be repetitive, so we would not say me lavo mis manos. Always make sure that you use the definite article. So me lavo las manos. So if there are two verbs in a sentence, the reflexive pronoun will change to modify the subject. So for example, I want to wake up. There are two verbs, want and wake up. So we conjugate the first verb, I want, quiero, and then to wake up is despertarse. The se at the end is the pronoun, but we're talking about ourselves, saying I want to wake up. So you use the pronoun that you would use in the yo form, but you leave it attached to the infinitive. So quiero despertarme instead of se. Okay, so we use a pronoun still, but since there are two verbs, we attach it to the end of the infinitive. Now, if you turn your page to the back side, which is page 13, there are a few reminders. The first thing is that these verbs that end in se are not necessarily always reflexive. So, yo me despierto, I wake up, that's something that you do to yourself. I wake up. But you could also wake someone up. Yo despierto a Cecilia a las 7. I wake Cecilia up at 7. So please remember that reflexive actions are things that are done to or for oneself. So one person both does and receives the action of a sentence. And then reflexive pronouns, the me, te, se, nos, os, and se, kind of take the place of the word self or selves in the English pronouns. There is nothing that you need to do to accompany this video for homework. Just please make sure that you have notes taken on page 12 and 13 of your purple packet.